Hello everybody, here is mate in two moves by Uri Avner. A very nice problem. I invite you to solve it. If you want to solve, you put the video on pause, and I begin immediately to have a look at the position and to go to the solution. So as usual, we have a look at the jail of the black king. The rook on h3 controls all the third rank. The square on g2 is controlled only by the knight e3. The square on g1 is blocked by the bishop, only blocked, but the bishop cannot move. The square f1 is controlled by the queen and by the knight e3. The square e1 is controlled only by the knight g2. e2 is controlled only by the queen d3, and e3 is very well controlled by almost all the pieces: the pawn, the rook, the knight, the bishop, and also the queen. So the controls that are a little bit difficult only by one white piece are f3, g3, g2, e1, e2. Now we have a battery, and we can suspect that the pawn will give mate by one way or another. We have some technical tries. Before I show the key, I show them, but they are not part really of the content of the problem. Knight to f4, threatening queen to e2, and the very prosaic refutation is rook takes the queen. You have queen takes the rook. It's very interesting. In fact, it gives a flight, but it doesn't allow the knight h2 to move because it has to guard f3, and also the other knight c4 in fact will not be able to move because it is opening to e2, and then there will be many mates. And the refutation is quite nice because it's a flight of the king. It seems easy, but now you could mate by moving the pawn because the knight is self-pinned. But have a look, you cannot go to d3 because it unpins the knight, and then the knight will be able to play to b2 or to d2, and you cannot go either to d4 to keep the pin of the knight, but now it intercepts the queen, and then the king will be able to play on d3. So the fact that after king e2 you have no mate is not so evident. Well, the key is queen b1, giving a flight on e2 and threatening on e1, queen e1. If black plays anything, for example rook here, you will have queen e1 because now the queen takes back the flight on e2 and of course gives check. The flight on e2 was abandoned by the key, and it's a flight giving key. So you have two main defenses, the first one, the king goes to e2, and you will not have any more queen e1 because of the flight on d3. but playing to e2, the king self-pins the knight c4, and then the pawn d3, d2, the pawn d2 will be able to play, and it has to play specifically on d4 and not on d3 in order not to unpin the knight. So you have d4 mate and not d3. Another defense is knight to e3 that gives a flight on g2, and then the mate on e1 is no more possible because of the flight. But playing on e3, the knight is once again self-pinned, so now again the pawn d2 will be able to play. It has to stay on the d column in order to avoid the move by the rook to d2. For example, pawn takes knight is not possible because the rook can cover, and also d4 is not possible because now it unpins on d4 the knight that will be able to cover. So the mate is only d3 by self-pin, and white has to avoid this time on playing on the white square. On the first variation I showed the pawn had to go on the dark square and not to the white one. You have another defense. Knight goes to f3, controlling e1, but you have immediately queen to f1, guarding e2 and giving checkmate. So a very nice problem, unusual strategy to avoid unpinning by the white pawn twice to the knight, to the black knight, and I hope you enjoyed it, and let's see for next problem. Bye.